She
started, I guess,
So-
in April.
Let's talk up.
7 o'clock at Manual on the Hill.
Okay, yeah, I think I can.
from the region or outside the region?
Yeah, she worked in DC.
Just real, I can go through that with you too.
She's also worked for like Portland and Chicago.
It's a very happy.
Transportation planning stuff.
Do we have to revise it?
We do.
Yep, the elevator. Yep.
Level down, below her. No.
I guess because we had a hire and they were looking at positions to eliminate the budget. It had been inactive for so long, they had to re-advertise this position. I was like, so granted, don't fly. And then we had like everybody have interview separate. But then we lost out on that, 'cause that we had to you know, I
She
took the
moved on.
employee, yeah, she moved on, so like. Wasn't nothing. I mean, we have a pretty big department.
All of them.
Yeah,
Or
includes
your
all of
bookings.
the, includes all public works stuff.
So it's a lot.
That is a lot. Citywide. Eliminated.
You got a haircut.
They're all.
Look a little different.
Yeah, a little bit.
That's right.
Shortfall.
90 positions total. Yeah. 50 of those have people. Now they're trying to find homes. So we make it. That's what I'm not sure. We have vacancies.
One to two.
Unclear.
1 to 2.
Remember your password?
It's something.
Yeah, dark mode. Oh, we're good on him. Just a bit. Good. Seeing what?
Bring your dogs.
I almost brought a puppy just to distract everybody, but
You would have made everyone happy.
yeah, you would have forgotten everything I said, so.
There you go, right in. What's that?
You
I'm in. Members of the board, are we ready? Good. I'd like to call to order the 940th meeting of the Board of Directors of Alexandria Sanitation Authority, now known as AlexRenew. Members of the board, could you take a look at the revised agenda? And I'll entertain a motion to approve the revised agenda.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
I,
Are there members of the public who would like to speak? Okay, let's move right into the consent agenda. Minutes from our meeting on April 21. Motion to approve the minutes.
I moved.
Second,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, a couple of administrative items. Board calendar on tab 2. Any updates from finance and audit or governance?
Nothing.
Mr. Carl, any points on the calendar we should consider?
Just that the Pride events on the 27th from 2 to 6, we're supporting the city. So that's on the digital version. It's raw on your paper version.
Mhm. Okay.
Advantage 1, board papers. Paper 0. Aaron, Bill, at some point we'd like to get with both of you so we can get board papers installed on your computers. And then you can see the screen that Jonah has up on screen tonight. I think this isn't on the board calendar yet, but for the board to be aware, we'll likely give an update presentation maybe next month or in July, but we are going to be doing inspections of all of the interceptors this summer. I think we mentioned that previously, but that work is moving ahead. Starting in June, we'll be doing LiDAR, sonar, and video inspections of our 4 interceptors. It's on the back of the update for the Federation. Mr. Beal for the meeting next week. Just to be aware, I'll likely send out an email notifying the board what's happening. It's going to be sort of real-time updates. It's very linear, and you move pretty quickly from site to site.
Good. Ready to move into new business? Okay, an update on the commissioning of AlexRenew. Mr. Carl.
Right.
All right, good evening. It's my pleasure to provide an update on commissioning for AlexRenew. Feels like a lot has occurred since our last board meeting, so we'll jump right in. You can see a photo here of the facade of the building coming along nicely. We pretty much wrapped up the whole building with the exception of the crane room. We still have a lot of equipment going in and out of there, but that'll wrap up here very shortly as well. Backing up to the big picture schedule, and as a reminder of where we are right on the precipice of completing the system to the point of operation. As you can see, we are also very much in our operational demonstration period. Technically, operational demonstrations is a very distinct phase of our startup and commissioning, but for all intents and purposes, we are operating portions of the system and much of the equipment that we'll be relying on when the system goes live here very shortly. After we finish this operational demonstration period, there'll be a period of time where the system is operational, but we've not yet hit contract substantial completion by the letter of the contract. The tunnel system contractor will continue operating the system during that period. And at the conclusion of that period, when we actually hit substantial completion, we'll go into that service agreement phase that we talked about, where the contractor continues operating and AlexRenew is ultimately responsible, but has the support of the contractor during that first year of operation. Any questions about that? Great. So the final countdown, we are 42 days, 5 hours, and probably more like, is it 53 minutes until our actual deadline, July 1st, not that anybody's counting. The really specific timeline that we're following here, you can see we've introduced flow to the tunnel. That was the big event that occurred when we met last. Since then, we've tested the functionality of the pump and much of the supporting equipment that we need to operate those pumps. We've established a connection between the new AlexRenew facility and the existing Commonwealth interceptor here on the plant. And this week, we're moving into performance testing. So this whole commissioning phase essentially looks like a component level checkout and test, a larger system level, and then can we operate the entire thing as it's designed? We're right in the middle right now, testing performance. By mid-June, we expect that we will have removed the bulkheads at the outfalls. And at that point, the system will, for all intents and purposes, be live and be ready for a storm event. Once those bulkheads are removed, there's nothing to prevent flow from coming into the system. And we'll be emptying the tunnel for the first time with live CSO sometime mid to late June, once those bulkheads are out and we get a rainfall event. While that is occurring, we'll be testing the wet weather pumping system here on the plant. So there's some concurrent work that can happen. We're bringing the commissioning of the system online in the outfalls while we're also doing the final commissioning and testing of the wet weather pump. So where we are on the tunnel dewatering pumping station, key milestones in the last month. We have tested all of the pumps to confirm functionality. Just bump them with power to confirm that they're rotating in the right direction. We've made some changes to the drives, the electrical drives that are powering them. And this is a video here of the functional testing of our tunnel dewatering pump. Through here. You can see the first thing we did was we filled the tunnel, and this is shown here in the screen shaft. And then this is the pathway, 130 feet ahead. We pumped this tunnel dewatering pump flow up and out of the pumping station for the first time. After testing the functionality of that pump, we tested the functionality of all of the installed solids handling pumps. And those are the smaller 5 MGD pumps down at the lowest level of the pumping station, and confirmed that all those are also running.
Mr. Payne,
Yes.
do you want me to reshare so you get some sound so everyone can enjoy the pump sound?
Yes. It's a good sound. All right.
It sounds like and around and around and around and around and around and around and around. Right. In the balloon. Let's just leave the sound off. We get the idea.
Yeah, they were.
It sounds like water and sounds like pumps.
After
The
the
washing machine.
it's exciting.
Exactly. If you threw like sneakers in the washing machine, that's exactly what it sounds like.
Kerchunk, kerchunk, kerchunk.
After we tested the tunnel dewatering pumps at the lowest level, we turned our attention to the wet weather pumps, really repeated the same process. We tested their functionality, bumped them to confirm rotation. We have electricians out there that helped us get everything wired correctly, and we operated them through a range of speeds to just confirm that they're working the way we expected. Those were also operated in multiples. We tested 1 pump running, and we tested it with 2 pumps running, and finally we tested it with 3 pumps running. With 3 pumps running, you can see the video here, the second video, we were pushing about 120 million gallons per day of flow around in a big circle between the pump station, and you can see our header fills up, pump it up and out, and then we recirculate it back. So that was that recirculation flow with 3 pumps running, which represents really the maximum that we would ever pump with these pumps that we have before that we can pick up.
Just so that I understand the numbers. That's 160 MGD.
120.
I'm sorry, 120, but raising it 160 feet or so?
In this case, the lift is only about 30 feet because we're at the intermediate pumping station level. The lowest level, the tunnel dewatering pump station, that is true. It's 130 foot.
Just to remember firm capacity, the deep one, 20 MGD at 130 feet, and then wet weather pumps, 180 MGD at 60 feet.
In a extreme weather event, what is the net amount of water we've got to move out of the tunnel from the lowest level to the surface?
The rate is 20 MGD, the volume is 12 million gallons.
12 million gallons.
Yes.
And then on the upper level, it'll be 180 MGD. And it's going multiple places, if you remember from the board retreat.
Yep, absolutely.
In addition to the work occurring in the pumping station, we're also working in the screening shaft. Obviously filled the screen shaft itself and have been drawing down that flow to both recirculate it while we're testing, and now we're drawing it down and discharging it to the front of the plant because we've cut into the Commonwealth interceptor where it comes into our HCl control structure. So now everything we pump out of the tunnel is sent to the front of the plant. The manufacturer for the screen rake and clamshell system is on site this week, and they're doing similar functional testing and configuring the overhead clam and rake system. So we expect that to last about 2 weeks. It will actually work out nicely. We'll have a functional system that'll be ready for the operational demonstrations when those begin. Yes.
You have some debris that's getting into the screen shaft to see if the rakes are working.
Will we have simulated debris? We're not going to be simulating debris at this point. We're just continuing to reuse clean water. That said, in 2 weeks, the moment that we remove those bulkheads at outfalls 1, 2, we could potentially have debris that comes in.
It's been factory tested in India to make sure it could pick up the debris, not Indiana. India.
They will do a
Look at
similar
my
test.
face.
They will repeat that test here with weights and prove that it works before we put it down into the tunnels. Finally, in the superstructure, obviously the facade that's being installed looks beautiful. There's so much work occurring on the inside to support the commissioning activities down below. None of those pumps turn on without power. All of that power gets supplied to our electrical room, the adjustable frequency drives, and obviously the switchgear that connects it all together. So the moment those pumps turned on for the first time, it's not just a test of the pumps, it's a test of all the ancillary systems that we need to support it. And the hydraulic infrastructure, headers, the HCl control structure, all of that gets tested as we're doing these functional and testing of the equipment, the pumps. So there have been, like I said, a ton of work in the last month on that functional testing. The additional building, mechanical, and electrical systems are also all nearing completion. That's the building HVAC, the electrical, low voltage electrical. We have a contractor out there who's beginning to install AV, doors, building security and entry and exit. All those sorts of systems are going in now. Interior finishes are going to start very soon. So drywall will be starting very shortly. So final takeaways. This was the moment we turned on those pumps for the first time. It was awesome to see flow coming up and out of the tunnel. That functional testing phase for us is complete for the pumps. The rake and clamshell testing is ongoing. Operational demonstrations for the entire system are beginning as soon as we pass through the performance testing that is occurring this week. We'll roll into operational demonstrations. We have our existing connections to the plant, both the permanent connections to the filter effluent conduits. That's for our wet weather treatment system that goes to UV, and now the permanent connection to the interceptor that goes to the head of the plant. So we are ready from a connection standpoint here on the plant. We start receiving flow from the outfalls, we'll be able to pump it and treat it here. We're ready to pull those bulkheads and introduce live flow in June, and we are on track to be operational prior to July 1st.
This was a great briefing and an incredible milestone. What would happen if we had a severe rain event before you open that bulkhead in mid-June?
What would happen here at the plant? There'd be no impact. No impact. Severe rain event right now, it's going to just pass right through our open structures. Everything is bulkheaded off between our new infrastructure and the tunnel. So we also will have to pull bulkheads here at the plant to even allow flow to go into the screen shaft, for example. So it'd be a high flow event as if the tunnel system doesn't exist.
Even the part going to Commonwealth?
Correct.
Aha. I thought that might see the increased flow.
What we could see is for example, flow back up in the Commonwealth interceptor and fill our HGL control structure while we're in a testing phase, in which case contractor would come in with pumps and they would empty it in a couple hours and they'd be right back in business, working on startup. So we're in a protected island mode while we continue to do testing, and it will remain that way until we open ourselves up to live flow, and we have control over the time.
Thank you.
Just important in case you're asked what we can and can't do today. Today, June 19th or May 19th. What we can do, we can run the pump station locally. So if we had to put the pump station in service tomorrow, we could run it locally, meaning we'd be out there pushing buttons and monitoring level, closing valves, old school. What we cannot do is we cannot run the pump station off of controls and level, which it's designed to do. So automatically turn a pump on lead, lag, turn pumps off, close valves, open valves. That's the next 2 weeks on the instrumentation side. So you can take a victory lap if you wanted and saying it can be run in hand and locally, but I think the important part is getting SCADA tied in and Joan and his team being able to see what's going on screens over here during a wet weather event. But again, the tunnel is easy. It's a big dumb animal that fills up with water when it rains. The wet weather pump station is completely different, and how we have to open and close gates to send flows to different locations. So I think that's a bit more challenging for us. But if we could run it lower. Just be a select few of us out there. Channel. But it could be done. So
So you could open the bulkheads now.
if we had to,
Yeah.
100%. Yep.
Real accomplishment.
Yeah, look how excited Mr. Payne is in that picture.
It was very fun. It was a good moment.
That's what I told him. Whenever I go on LinkedIn, I see his pictures everywhere with a smile on his face.
Great
Thank
videos.
you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you.
Okay, the next update is our safety month.
So when Mr. Rigby gets ready, this is a month early because he'll be at a conference next month. So we wanted to make sure that our board safety month activity got done prior to safety month, which for us is June.
All right, good evening, everyone. My name is Alex Rigby. I was asked to come here as Safety Month is right around the corner to talk a little bit about safety. Next slide. At AlexRenew, safety is our #1 priority, right? And our goal is simple. It's that everyone that comes here goes home safe at the end of every day. And to help us achieve that goal, we have what we call our 5 fundamental commitments. These are things that we expect from each and every one of our employees. The first commitment is to communicate their expectations about their personal safety, right? What does that mean? Well, for me, I have a wife and 2 children. We're a single income family, right? If I get hurt on the job and I can no longer work, I can't provide the type of life or the opportunities that I want for my children. If I get killed on the job, I'm not going to be able to experience all those milestones for my children. More importantly, I'm not going to be able to be there when they need me, right? When things get hard in life, I'm not going to be able to be there for them. That's the most important for me. I've been in the conversation when a mother was told that her boyfriend, the father of her 2 children, was never coming home again. That's the worst thing I've ever experienced, I've ever seen. I never want to be part of that conversation again. That's why it's so important for me that we make sure we do whatever we can, make sure that everyone goes home safe at the end of each day. Our second commitment is to provide all of the resources, the tools, the equipment, the materials, the training that our teams need to make sure that they can do their job in the safest possible manner. The third commitment is to celebrate safety successes. Because when you do a good job in safety, the end result is nothing, right? Nothing happens. We go home safe. And when the end result of something is nothing, it's very easy to lose focus on how important that something is, right? We want to provide an immediate and tangible consequence when someone is engaged in positive safety behaviors. We want to let them know how much we appreciate that, how much that means to us, how important that is to us. That's our third commitment. Our fourth commitment is that we want to understand, we want to communicate, and we want to discipline for safety. When something happens, we need to know why it happened, right? What went wrong, what we can do to prevent it from happening again, and we want to communicate that. We don't want the rumor mill to start, right? People to start asking questions, coming up with what's happened, wondering what we're doing about it. We want to set clear expectations, right? Safety is important to us. This is what we're doing about it. This is how we're going to prevent this from happening again. And this is what their part in it is. Our last commitment says we don't want to wait for something to go wrong, right? We want to identify risks proactively and take steps to manage and mitigate those risks to ensure that everyone does go home safe at the end of each day. Our safety program is built on these 7 core elements, right? The first element is visible, felt leadership, right? Our leadership is committed to safety and they demonstrate that through action. Our second core element is policies and procedures. Having written, clear, and concise instructions for our employees so they know what the expectations are. There's no question, there's no ambiguity, because ambiguity opens us up to risk. Our third core element is learning. We want our employees to know what the risks are that they're exposed to, how to identify those risks, how to manage and mitigate those, right? So that they can take personal ownership, which is our fourth commitment, right? Each one of us is personally accountable for safety, but it is a shared responsibility. Everyone at AlexRenew, right? Part of their job is safety, making sure that the person next to them goes home safe at the end of each day. Our next element is recognition. We already talked about that on the last slide, right? When someone's doing a great job, when they go above and beyond, or our star performers in safety, we want to reward them. We want to acknowledge them. We want to give them that positive reinforcement to let them know how meaningful that is to us. Our next core element is communication. I've been in safety for 15 years. I've got a bachelor's degree in public health with an emphasis in industrial hygiene. I'm a certified safety professional. When it comes to safety in the field, I don't know anything compared to the guys who get their hands dirty every day, right? They know what the risks are associated with the job that they're doing. They know how to keep themselves safe from that risk, right? My job is to facilitate that, to take that knowledge that they have from their years of experience and communicate that in those clear policies and procedures so we don't lose that information for the next generation. So we can share that information, communicate with each other. And our last element is continuous improvement. We're never done in safety, right? There's always something that we can improve, some way we can make things safer, some way that we can improve our safety for our employees. So June is National Safety Month, right? We talk about safety every day, but June gives us an excuse to celebrate safety, right? This year, our theme for Safety Month is Safety Beyond the Shift. What does that mean? Well, as you may remember from my presentation last year, we've been implementing a series of trainings known as Safe Start, right? And these are focused on human factors, right? Like rushing, frustration, fatigue, complacency, and how those can lead us to make errors like eyes not on task, mind not on task, balance, traction, and grip, and line of fire errors, right? Well, as we did those trainings, we learned some interesting information. It turns out that employees are 6 times more likely to be injured off the job than they are to be injured on the job. Right? According to the National Safety Council, in 2024, there were approximately 4 million medically consulted injuries that happened on the job, compared to approximately 23 million medically consulted injuries of workers that happened off the job, with approximately 13.5 million of those occurring in the home. When you look at fatalities of workers, that disparity gets a lot bigger, right? You're 21 times more likely to die off the job than on the job, all right? The numbers change a little bit, but home stays at about 50%, right? The percentage of vehicle fatalities goes up and public goes down. But home stays at about 50%, and you're 21 times more likely to be killed off the job than on the job. So we said to ourselves, do we only care about our employees while they're on the clock? The obvious answer to that is no, right? So what can we do to encourage our employees to be more safe off the job, right? How can we help them prevent these from happening to them? So that's what our campaign is about this year for Safety Month 2026, right? Safety beyond the shift. We're looking at building a 24/7 safety mindset, right? Our campaign this year is a series of activities and events that's designed to build safety competency off the job as well as on the job, right? The goal is to reduce off the job injuries, right? To build that safety competency for our employees off the job, which will create a positive feedback loop and improve their competency for safety on the job as well. We're also looking to engage friends and family. We want to bring them along on the safety journey. Because when your wife says to you, hey, Don, you got few enough brain cells left as it is, you better wear your hard hat and protect what you got left, right? Then it becomes real. Then it's not the safety guy standing up in the front of the room or the CEO at the round table, right? Saying that this is important. This is someone that cares about you and who you have to go home and answer to every day, right? Who cares about your safety, right? We want to bring them along and involve them in the journey. We're strengthening engagement, right? We're showing our employees through this initiative that we don't just care about them on the clock, right? It's not about the numbers. We're not looking at reducing our TRIR or our DART, right? It's not just a numbers game. We care about our employees because they're people. They're not numbers. They have things they want to protect, and we want to help them protect that. That's what this is all about, right? And again, in the end, it's going to reinforce that positive safety culture that we're building, right? That we're never done improving. And this is going to support our strategic goals of operational excellence, thriving workforce, and commitment to the community. So I'm going to continue my record of giving you homework. That's probably going to stop getting me invited back to the board meetings here, since every time I do have homework for you. What I want you to do this year, right, is one of the activities that we're engaging our employees in. Right now, I have some handouts for you. Don't worry, you don't have to fill these out and bring them back. This is just so you don't forget what I'm asking you to do. Right. The first thing I want you to do is grab a family member or a friend. Right. Do this with them. Then I want you to find 3 different places, either in home or in public places that you frequent regularly. Right? For each of those places, I want you to ask 3 questions. The first question is, what could hurt someone here? How could someone get hurt? The second question I want you to ask is, who's most at risk? And then the third question I want you to ask is, what's one easy thing that we can do today? Right? So when I did this with my son, right, the place I went is the stairs, because I know that's a problem area. He likes to come in and put his water bottle, his books, his toys on the stairs, which are right inside the front door, right, and leave them there for us, right? So we go in, I say, okay, Ashton, my son's name is Ashton. With these stairs, how could someone get hurt here, right? And he identifies that someone could trip on this stuff, fall down the stairs. I say, well, who could get hurt here? Well, his mama could get hurt, or his sister could get hurt, right? Well, what can we do to make sure they don't get hurt going down the stairs? He says, we can pick up this stuff, right? That's when it becomes real, right? When they identify for themselves, right, what the risk is, who's potentially getting hurt, right? That brings them along, builds that safety confidence for them as well. And when I teach someone else, that improves my safety competency as well, creating, again, that positive reinforcement feedback loop, right? So again, I don't need you to fill these out, but please go through this, right? At home with your loved ones, with your friends, and then make that one fix, that one easy fix, right? Catch that low hanging fruit. And then if you would, come back ready to share what you did at X month's board meeting. And that's all I had for you today. Thank you so much for your time. Have a safe and wonderful rest of your evening.
Alex, this is important stuff, really is. I mean, we're going to talk later about compensation. I think safety is as important as that for retention. It is. I mean, think about this place. You've got big machines. You have, big heights or big depths, however you want to look at it. And you have dangerous chemicals. And the fact that you all just completed the biggest public works project in the history of the city with, I think,
Fight some wood.
with no significant injury is an amazing accomplishment. Considering what was involved and what couldn't.
Absolutely.
This is important stuff.
Yeah, we're very proud of our team and we want to do everything we can to make sure they go home safe every day. Absolutely.
So thank you for what you do.
Thank you.
This one. Just button one, right? Yeah. Okay, on to compensation. All right. Caitlin's gonna click the first one again. All right, so, okay. So in the compensation philosophy that the board has agreed upon, that we also have as our internal policy, every 2 years, we go out to the market and we have a third-party consultant do our compensation study to make sure we're paying to market or paying within our policy. We used our same vendor this year, Gallagher. They've completed the report. We've reviewed the report. And today we're going to present on some of those details and some of the changes that we're going to be making. So just overall snapshot picture of the organizational chart. So of course, Justin, all of his direct reports, and you can see where all the different positions fall below the direct reports, their managers, their supervisors. We're right about 140 people right now, just right under 140 people. I'm pointing to this. Oh, there we go. Maybe I'll just leave it alone. So this is a summary of our current workforce, our snapshot of our current workforce. Our years of service are about just over 7 years, average years of service. Average age is about 43, but then also just a cut of about 2/3 of our workforce is high school diploma, GED type education. That's the majority of our plant staff. Remember our apprenticeship program, that is one of the basic requirements is to have your high school diploma or GED to get into our apprenticeship program. So this is not necessarily a surprising slide. Our average years of service, it's kind of been averaging right around 7. Goes still a little bit below 7. Average age 43. I think it might dip a year this year when we do our numbers because we are hiring those 19, 20-year-olds that seem to bring down the average age to everybody else. So that probably number will stay probably in their low 40s. So, okay, there we go. Last year we showed you this picture, or 2 years ago we showed you this picture, just so that you have an idea of where our workforce is and how far they commute. We do have, a good bulk of our staff that, or maybe about 20-25% of our staff that live relatively close to the plant. But as you can see, we've got 3 individuals now that live way out in Delaware. We've got an individual who lives way down in the Richmond area. Actually, we have 2 individuals live down in Richmond area now. And as far out as like over Front Royal. So we've got folks that are coming in from all different angles. So we say that the average commute for our workers is probably about 40 minutes. Of course, depends on the time of day. You drive 95 like I do, or 66 over to the west. But this is just to give you a snapshot of kind of where our employees are coming from. About 90%, or not, yeah, about 90 people, not 90%, 90 people that work out in the plant. You know, they're coming to work at least 4 days a week. Most of them work 4 10s. And then the staff in this building still has the flexibility of teleworking at least up to 2 days a week. Not everybody takes advantage of that, but some of them do still use the telework policy. This is just to recap the compensation philosophy. We updated this a couple of years ago. The 4 main components of the transparency. We don't hide the information from the employees. In fact, with the updates to the salary, positions, job descriptions, career pathways, all of that is available to them on SharePoint. We go about doing this and we pride ourselves on the equity and fairness component. The compensation study that we agree to do it at least every 2 years by a third party, which is what we're going to talk about the results today. And then, of course, the recognition component between merit increases, spot awards, discretionary awards, and then just kind of all of the career development increases. Now, a couple things to note. Just because of some legislation, a lot of activity with the legislation, we have hired a third-party consultant to kind of review our policies and procedures as it affects the employees. And we're expecting to get some good information and opportunities to continue improving on that. And the second thing that we've decided to do, it'll be our first time since I've been here, is to do a full-blown employee engagement study in the fall. So that will give us, again, another pulse on how the employees are feeling about a variety of different things, not just benefits or compensation, the culture, things like that. So we expect to share some of those results of that report later in the year. And as you remember from our benefit conversations in the past, this is an overarching picture of our main benefits with our medical insurance. You know, we continue to contribute about 90% of the cost, their monthly cost. We have a high deductible plan, and we also fund about 2/3 of their deductible in that plan. Of course, we have our vision and dental, all the life insurance components, retirement plans with Virginia Retirement System, and our standalone with Empower. And then, of course, you have various flexible benefits with our dependent care and commuter. And the flurry of other benefits that we offer. Most recently, we offered the lifestyle spending account back in 2025. That went over really well. So the employees are getting or appreciate having that extra benefit that they can submit claims and get reimbursed for different things. And that seems to be going over really well. It's also been a great arm for doing spot awards. So if we had Sustainability Month last month, we had a bingo, we had a couple of different little competitions, and employees got spot awards, but the value of that spot award went into their lifestyle account. Paid family leave is also on here. We added that last year. It was last year. No, it may have been the year before. But as you know, the governor just signed a new bill for the state of Virginia to have a required paid family leave. So that doesn't go into effect for a couple of years, but that 12-week paid family leave at 80% of somebody's pay will be a tax that employers and employees both have to pay. So we will be right on the cusp of trying to figure out the best ways to offer that benefit to our employees, whether it's through that program or enhancing our current program to make sure they get the best benefit. So more to come on that one. But in case you heard about it in the news, you know, we already have something in place, but of course it would need to be enhanced. This here is to give you another nice trend to see. This is a little bit of our, an illustration of our turnover. So you can see in the last couple of years that the turnover has dramatically declined. This year we're trending, it's only 4 months into the year, we're right about 3% turnover. And we kind of pulled out the retirements, and we have interns that come in a couple of times a year, just so you can see the trend. Last year we had about 15% turnover, but nowhere near the kind of turnover we've been having in the past, where we were 20 and 30% turnover in years past.
Wendy, could we stay on this chart for a bit?
Mm-hmm.
This is probably one of the most important metrics that the board could look at, actually. Could you give a little more sort of anecdotal color to some of the bars there?
Maybe.
Are they people leaving because they're of a certain age? Or were they back in the days when we had a lot of turnover? Were they leaving because they were a certain age and they were aging out? Or
No, we pulled out the retirements. This is just, we pulled out retirements. Yeah, the year, I think it was 2018, no, it was 2018. That number was closer to 35% with retirements. So,
okay, so 10%.
so with the number you see there is just over, that's probably like 26, 27. That's without retirements. There is a spike in 2020, but again, that doesn't have the retirements in it. This is purely folks that left the organization due to various reasons or were asked to leave. But we've had a huge improvement in culture, communication. As you can see, the retention has gotten much, much better.
Much better. So
It's very difficult to sustain that foundation when you've got 20, 30% turnover.
Job market is what it is, and it costs a lot of money to train people.
And recruit, yep.
So what you're saying here is in 2018, back when I think the total head count back then was 100-ish, 110-ish.
Yeah. Close to just under 100 probably, around like 95.
So that's 30 people
Mm-hmm.
left.
Mm-hmm.
All different levels of the organization,
Correct.
not just executives, but line workers, everything.
Yep. We don't want to get back there. We're going to stay in the
No,
teens.
that was something that worried the board a lot back in those days. There is a little blip in 25. Is that a sort of a demographic thing, just an age thing?
You know, there was some relocation. I do remember there were some employees. It wasn't due to, oh, I don't like my supervisor. I don't like AlexRenew. There was some relocations last year. There were a couple of people that we managed out of the workforce because they needed to be moved on. There was a couple of that, but there was some relocations last year. But you know, 15% isn't terrible. You know, 20 or 30 is, but you know, if we can stay around 10 or just under in the single digits, that would be best. You want to have a little bit of turnover.
It's definitely trending in a very positive way.
Do you have exit interviews when they are leaving? Do you track that?
Yeah, we do exit interviews for the folks that are voluntarily leaving. And we expect that to be one of the things we may probably beef up a little bit with this consultant that's reviewing our policies. I think he's going to give us some more guidance on how to get more information from folks.
That little blip in 25, is that, I've seen a lot of organizations dealing with the post-COVID world. Could that be part of that too?
No, I don't think we're seeing anything about that. No, that was some of the 21, 22 stuff.
25, you could attribute it to a lot of that to night shift and challenges we have.
True. Yeah, we were going to talk about that.
We're going to talk about today.
Okay.
We did have some of that too.
Again, it's only one data point, right? So you can't overanalyze it, right? Good. Thank you. Thank you. This is a very important graph, by the way.
All right, so a little bit of time on kind of the compensation structure. So back before I got here, there was no compensation structure. So in 2012, when we hired a consultant, we said we need a compensation structure, which includes taking all the jobs that we had at that time, doing the market study, figuring out the appropriate market compensation for that job, but creating some structure. So having what they call pay bands. So the pay bands is what you always hear referred to as minimum, midpoint, max. In our compensation structure and our philosophy, we said in this group that midpoint was going to be market. So if the engineer position said market should pay $100,000, that we were going to set our midpoint to that job somewhere around that point. So midpoint might be, that job, it pays $100,000 on the market, but it also might be a little bit below, a little bit above. It's that kind of a little bit of a range because you're lumping multiple jobs into that particular pay band. It could be like jobs like when we talk about our trade positions, our first level mechanics and our first level electricians, first level operators are all in the same pay band because we qualify them as the same years of experience, type of skill that they're bringing, things like that. So they're lumped into the same pay band. When we talk about compa ratio, again, back to the board philosophy, we said we are going to pay someone 90% or 10% below that midpoint or 10% above, which is 110% of the compa ratio. That we won't bring somebody in at minimum. We don't, minimum's there as illustration, basically. We will bring somebody in at least at 90%, somebody entry level like an apprentice, or we could maybe go up to 110% like when we bring in a new hire, maybe somebody that's seasoned, more experience. We don't want to bring them in at max because then they have nowhere to move and they're not getting any merit increase there. So we use that guidance when we're bringing folks in as new hires. And when we do this compensation study, we also go back to that guidance, and we're going to get into the details of the compensation study to make sure that we're still being competitive by paying our current staff somewhere in that 90 to 110% range.
Question. If somebody hits maximum,
What happens?
yes,
We have that happens. It does happen occasionally. So when we go to do our merit process, our annual performance review process, our annual merit process, we do it all at one time. All employees all at one time during the year. It just comes up July 1st. If somebody's at the maximum and they're getting a 3% merit increase, instead of changing their base pay will stay what they call red circled, or it will stay frozen. And we will give them 3% as a lump sum merit all at one time, instead of it getting in their base pay and increasing them outside that salary range. And when we go to do an update on the compensation study, if their position starts to fall within the range again, then they'll be eligible for base pay increases again, once they fall back into the range. So they don't lose merit. They just don't get it added to their base pay. And it also doesn't add to their retirement. So it does delay that too.
thank you.
Oops. So to think about when we work with Gallagher, the third-party consultant, we set up our strategy. So it's telling them at the different levels or types of positions within the organization. Do we want them to look at only local salary surveys, local positions, nationally? So you can see this is the strategy we give them and how we want them to look at those different salary surveys that they have access to. The hourly professionals, the manager positions, they are all looking at all industries and public sector, but when you get higher up, like into the executive rank, it truly is just looking at public sector. We don't look at like Justin's position to private sector CEOs because it's not going to mesh. We look purely at the public sector. We give them a size revenue wise, and then we also ask them to get market, or when we say midpoint is that 50th percentile. So we give them all that information as the strategy. So when they start looking at the salary surveys, they used all these different studies, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, including our custom survey. And they collected data from all those different various points. Now, not every position is in all 8 of those. Some positions may only be in a few of them. They only report data as long as they've got at least 3 comparable data sources. If there's not 3, they won't report anything. We did do a custom survey with some of our local folks, so at Broccoquan, Prince William, Loudoun, Fauquier. So we had a separate data point just with those, so we can see how we're doing against our Northern Virginia group. What this illustration shows is that because we do the third-party consultant every 2 years, our salaries, when you compare it to market, start to slide. So the last 2 years, cost of living, market, it says, I guess it was saying about 2.5 to 3% for the last each year. So we're already like, say, 5% behind. So in this illustration, it's showing in 2026, a snapshot of our current workforce against what the new market is showing, that about 27% were falling below that 90% that we say we were at least a minimum going to pay. Majority of the folks were in that 90 to 110%, and a few of the folks are outside above that 110. the reason we showed this is because 2 years ago, when we had this illustration, you could see it was a much greater number. So we're doing better at bringing folks in and maintaining them closer to that 90 to 110. So when we get this study every couple of years, it's just showing we have less people to look at and make an adjustment to right now. This illustration here is to give you an example of some of the positions that we wanted to highlight. The biggest changes that we saw in market, a couple of the positions that we were politely surprised for the employees, was our executive assistants to our chiefs and our lab technicians. The market shows that there is a considerable jump in their base pay, that we had to make some, they're part of a group that we need to make some salary adjustments on and change the way we have them positioned in the salary pay bands. So this is just an illustration giving you an idea of some of the positions, like the staff accountant, our current person incumbent that's in that role. That red arrow there is showing that they're just slightly below the 90%. That's what that first mark is 90%. So they need a salary adjustment to get them in between kind of that darker pink area and where the bright pink starts to show up. Whereas when you look at the OpTech 1, they're just above the 90%. So that group of individuals, or the average of those individuals, is already being paid in the appropriate band. So the red arrows are showing where those positions are falling below 90%, where the green arrows are showing they're meeting our guidelines as stated in the compensation philosophy. So we just kind of took a cut just to give you a little bit of an illustration. Again, the executive assistants and the lab technicians were way below what market said they should be paid. So for like the lab technicians, they're actually going to be paid above like the other technicians, like our maintenance, electrical operators are all on the same pay band. Lab techs are actually going to be a pay band above, which is the first time we've had that happen since we've had this structure. So there should be some happy people in the lab testing our water and doing the right things. We also asked our custom survey, our folks in the Northern Virginia region, just a couple other questions about their pay practices, what kind of pay increases have they been planning on doing or have been doing, maybe even what they're doing on their shift premium. So we're all right about in the same area, and we all tap out to each other all the time when everybody's doing budget. We're like, what are you going to put in your budget this year? So we're right alongside our partners in that area when it comes to merit increases. Shift premium, we did look at a couple of different things. One, information that we got from this survey, to the retention struggle that we've been having on our overnight shift and operations. We've turned over that group. Actually, I've been doing a turnover report just on operations, and that particular group on the overnight shift it's just turning over way too fast. 30% of the operators are turning over in just the last 1 year period of time. So that doesn't help our foundation in operations. So what we looked at doing was increasing or changing, I should say, our shift premium. So we have an afternoon shift that comes in at 1:30 in the afternoon and works till midnight. And then an overnight shift that works 9:30 p.m. till 8 o'clock in the morning, that graveyard shift. So we've been paying them a flat $1 to work in the afternoon and $2 to work the graveyard shift. So now effective the end of the month, end of May, we're going to change it to a percent of pay. So afternoon will get 10% of their base pay. So if they make $40 an hour, it'll be an extra $4 an hour. In the afternoon or overnight shift, they'll get paid 15% of their pay. So $40 an hour, they'll get an extra $6 an hour for their hours worked. We are hoping, and we've already seen some positive chit-chatting because we've got a few of our day shift folks that want to go to the overnight shift because they want to make more money. So we're hoping that's going to help a better foundation and retention tool. People like money. We're hoping that shift premium change will help that graveyard shift to keep them here.
How many employees work the graveyard shift over the course of a year?
Well, there's 5 on each side, so there's 10 people that work the graveyard shift. But it's also where we have a lot of our entry-level folks, so they're not necessarily making $40 an hour. They're making that, $32 an hour that we bring them in at.
But if they're entry-level folks and you're having high attrition, we're losing a lot of.
Yeah, which is what's been nice about a couple of our seasoned operators, raising their hand and saying, we'll work the graveyard shift. We'll work, we want to make the extra money. but at least we're getting some better skill set because they've been doing really well supporting that shift and this a little bit of a turmoil time, people coming in early, people staying late, so that they all have that same goal in mind to get the work done. So that's one of the things that we're going to change the end of the month.
It doesn't sound as dire as it, there's on the front end of that shift, there's a 2-hour overlap with evening. On the back end of that shift, there's a 2-hour overlap with morning for shift crossover. So duties can get exchanged and they can move on and plan those accordingly. So they're alone for
5 hours.
Having done
Make me
that,
feel a
having
little
done that
better.
once, that's a lonely time of night.
I could,
A lonely time of
I
night.
could sense the
Except when
anxiety.
it's raining, right?
And it is disruptive for people's personal lives.
It sure is.
Studies show that it causes problems.
Yeah, and typically you hear it takes a certain kind of person to work that graveyard shift. Some people do it all their lives, and some people it's a short stint, and we shouldn't expect them to stay there forever. We also measured ourselves up against the PTO or some of the Northern Virginia groups still do sick and vacation time separately. Again, we're right in trend with everyone else, slightly higher, but we also have our holidays in our PTO bank. So that makes a little bit of a difference too. Some folks still have standalone holiday. This is our old salary structure that we put in place back in 2012. We made a couple of changes after COVID in 21. So we had 20 different pay bands. It was set up to be 60% range from minimum to maximum, and midpoint to midpoint when you went down the scale was 15% in between each midpoint. That's how the salary structure was set up. We had Gallagher take a look at this, and I said, it was a new consultant with Gallagher, and I said, take a look at this, give me your thoughts. It's been a long time since we've made any changes. And he came back and said, when you've got your career pathways where we have our technicians coming in as an apprentice and they move up within the organization and they have that career pathway, it makes more sense business practice wise to have a shorter, so more of a 50% minimum to maximum range for those groups in the first 6 salary bands. And then he also made a recommendation that 15% midpoint to midpoint was too wide, that we should need to narrow it down to 9%. So I'm making some of those changes. We've come up with a new salary structure. So now we go from 20 to 22. We have reslotted all the positions appropriately. We're going to be communicating this out to the staff this week. We've created personalized memos to all the employees so they understand this is your new salary band. This is where you're at compa ratio wise, so that they have a good picture. And the career pathways, of course, were updated so they have that information on their career pathway.
In general, will it mean that people will have more pay future? I assume if whatever they're currently paid, they're still paid that, but put on the pay band, the new pay band, right?
Right, yeah.
So when they look forward, does it mean in general, are people going to have more pay future? In other words, they got further distance to the end, so they can eventually earn more.
Yeah, and that's, well, and looking at all the individuals, explaining to them that, yeah, it might say on your current pay today, before we have merit increases in July, you're getting paid at 95%, but you've got that much more room in the range, right? You're not at 120 or 125, but also you get your merit increase, you're going to be even that closer to the 100%. It's because our current data is being mapped up against data that is now current versus 2 years ago. So.
But before we move off this, by the way, very good diagram. What percentage of our employees are, say, below pay band 12 or 15? You know that off the top of your head? Because most of our folks are not up at the top. They're clustered around the middle, right? Know that off the top of your head. So
working our way up from the bottom up, I can tell you that we bring in our apprentices are in 3, our technicians, our apprentices are running at 3, the next level is 5, 7, 9 is where our senior technicians are. Pay band 11 is where a lot of our maintenance supervisors, operations supervisors are sitting. When you get to, I'll say 12 to 18, it's probably more 13 to 18 is where that, smaller group of managers and IT professionals are in that group.
Okay, that's
Justin's at the top.
It's very narrow pyramid.
Yes, it gets very narrow when you go.
Very
to the top.
narrow.
Correct. Yes.
What is the spread between a supervisor and their direct report? Do you have a minimum spread there?
I'm sorry, what?
Do you have a minimum separation between a supervisor and their direct report? Salary wise.
Separation between a supervisor?
Salaries, yes.
Maintenance supervisor and a maintenance, senior tech. What he's asking the spread, do we have a minimum spread between? the
Is
two?
there a minimum spread there?
And
But you get to the person. So like our current, say, maintenance supervisors.
Yeah.
Are right about the midpoint of pay band 11, right? They're say 125 round numbers.
Yeah.
Their next person below them, a senior technician, is somebody that's been with us 30 plus years. They're at the high end of pay band 9. So actually they're very close. But when you go further down, of course, there's more spread. But because our senior techs have been here, 20 plus 30 years, they were very close to their maintenance supervisors who haven't been here as long, or in that role as long. Same thing has happened in our operations side too.
so the more senior operators and senior op techs and maintenance techs might make the same as a supervisor.
Yeah, with overtime, it's very possible. And then just the last slide kind of summarizes our key takeaways. You probably know this, it's expensive to live in Alexandria, but the cost of living in Alexandria nationwide, if you think of national at 100, they say we are 17% higher in Alexandria city than the national average. So when they take all that market data, if they're looking at a national scope and it's not broken down by region or our specific area, they'll take that number and add 17.3% to it right out of the gate to make it comparable to our area. So and also a key takeaway is that, that illustration earlier that we over 3/4 of the staff are paid market competitive, so they're in that range. To align with our compensation philosophy, as I said, the group of individuals that are below 90%, there's about 35 of them. The majority of them are some of those entry-level folks. The group of apprentices, so the lab people, of course, are getting an adjustment. The EAs are an adjustment. Handful of others. It is going to increase our fiscal 27 budget base pay-wise by about $200,000. We're going to make those salary adjustments ahead of the merit, just so that we can get that separated. And then, of course, as I said, we've redesigned the salary structure. And then the last thing we're recommending is that, yes, our compensation philosophy says do a third-party analysis every 2 years. We are going to start tapping the consultant once a year, not for a full-blown study, but just to say, what are you seeing the market doing when it comes to cost of living, so that we can make an adjustment annually instead of waiting every 2 years. So if the market says 3%, 4%, that we can go ahead and adjust those salary structures every year instead of every 2 years. So we won't have such a lag behind or have that kind of salary adjustment would be the goal.
With all the good staff that you said now, so attractive, what is your vacancy rate here?
I'm sorry.
I said, what is your vacancy rate? Because you said a lot of good staff, very attractive staff. I said, what is the vacancy rate?
The vacancy rate.
Vacancy.
Well, right now, today, we only have one open position, so I'm pretty happy about that.
It's good.
That's great. That's great.
We hired some of our more difficult positions, right? We were looking for a process engineer for almost a year. Our asset manager took us some time to find an asset manager. And so most recently, we've, on wood, wherever that might be, all of our operations staff is fully staffed now. So we just have one open position to replace somebody that's going to be retiring in the fall.
That's great. Thank you.
When you bring somebody in from the outside, you said that you're bringing them in somewhere between 90% and 110% is kind of your,
Mhm.
has those yardsticks, goalposts, has that limited you at all? Has there been difficulty bringing people in by having kind of that?
No, actually not. I mean, there's been on occasion, maybe a specific skill set, like an IT or these process engineer, that we may have had to go a little bit above the 110, but it happens maybe 1 out of 10 hires that we might have an issue with. So not very often.
But you do have the flexibility to go outside of that.
I'm going to keep them within the range.
Ms. Callahan, I want to thank you and your team and the whole AlexRenew team for presenting such good detailed data and being so transparent on this topic. As I think some board members know, we were bedeviled by tension past. We didn't quite know why.
Yeah.
And your approach to this and the way you're being so open with the data is just really illuminating to the board. So thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
And I would add a lot of HR data. I've been to these many presentations. It's very obtuse. This was very clear.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I didn't even need to bring a puppy.
Wait later.
Yeah, I got 3 beagle puppies at home. You can have one.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, moving right along. Another exciting topic, AlexRenew outreach and communications.
Good evening, everyone. So today, oh,
Hold on, I turned my head. I missed the beginning.
no, I didn't mean to click it. That was an accident. Okay, start over. Good evening, everyone. So as we kind of enter the final phase of AlexRenew, it's the largest infrastructure project in the history of Alexandria. It's the largest project that AlexRenew has managed, and we have a duty to share how unique that is with our community, with our customers. We want to highlight the scale, the speed, and the impact that this program and project has had in our community. And we have a plan in place to do that. We kind of wanted to walk through at a high level with the board. So we've broken down our outreach into 4 phases here. We have the final stretch. So this is where we're engaging our community. We've already started to do this over the last several months, and we will continue to do it until we reach completion. We have project completion. This is bringing our community along, and then once we complete the project, celebrating that milestone with them. After the project's over, we have legacy and benefits. That's something that we need to continue to share long after this project's over, but also highlight starting now as we're entering the final phase. And then finally, as important as the other phases, I think brand strengthening is critical after the AlexRenew project's complete. We need to leverage everything we've learned, all the tools that we have at our disposal from this project, and continue to build our brand as an organization. So I heard a few comments about Ryan as our most recent spokesman. So I take it that some of you have seen our videos. Over the last 2-3 months and for the foreseeable future, we're going to continue to provide important updates to our community and our customers about what's going on site right now. So we have leveraged everything from news releases, our media contacts, social media, email, bill inserts, you name it, to get the word out. We've put out quite a few videos over the last few months on social media, and I'll kind of jump to some of the metrics later in the presentation. But just highlighting what's going on right now. We know that people engage better with content where we feature employees. So a lot of those videos include staff like Ryan, who's been an excellent spokesperson for the AlexRenew program. We also feature content of what's being installed, what's being tested, what's going on the site right now. And then we're also peppering in content that highlights the benefits that we're already seeing. I mean, I go for a walk all the time around African American Heritage Park. We're already seeing on hoofs run animals come back that I haven't seen for years. So I think that's something to celebrate. So we're trying to get the word out about that, about the Pendleton Promenade, highlight all of the things that are also just benefits of this project that we've left behind. We will leave behind. So jumping into the second phase here, celebrating system launch. So obviously, we're trying to build a lot of momentum and steam going into the completion. And then once we get there, we need to celebrate that as well. So we have a few plans in place. I won't give away all the surprises, but we want to, when we do complete the system, highlight everything that we, through every channel that we can imagine, you know, digital, and also reaching out to media, you know, highlighting it through our insert, every channel that we have, we're going to celebrate this thing. We'll have an internal team celebration. It's going to be a great photo op, but also a time for our team to celebrate this fantastic milestone of the crews and AlexRenew employees alike. When we do have our first big weather event, that's another milestone. Hopefully that doesn't happen on July 1st. Mr. Carl is predicting, but
It'll be raining before it hits July.
if these don't necessarily align, then it's just something else to celebrate. And if they hit at the same time, then
You're gonna get
Cross
a
that bridge.
lot of flow.
uh,
Be ready.
I think we've talked about this in previous meetings, but we're also looking at having a gala. So that's something we can invite sort of all of our key partners to, members of media, local politicians. And really celebrate.
Black
the
tie, of
community.
course, right?
Yeah.
We're gonna do business.
He's backing off the
Yeah.
black tie, black hat.
Oh.
I didn't get black tie.
No,
Absolutely.
I got a tuxedo. I got.
Mine was a tuxedo, so.
That's, don't let,
All
I'm,
right, I guess we're gonna stay on.
yeah,
But
At least the board should be in black.
No.
I'm gonna wear my
We're gonna
finest
get you
gown.
white tail to the top hat.
We're already looking at like how many folks we can fit in the building, how we can plan a celebration and how we're gonna promote it. And, signage, you know, anything else that we're gonna pull out during the celebration. We've discussed creating a 2027 calendar. I think that's a great idea, kind of highlighting different phases of the project as we went along. As you all know, we're expanding the book series. The fourth book is printed now. We're just waiting to receive it, so you all should see that shortly. And then we're working on a fifth book as well. Should have that by the end of the year. As we continue to increase our STEM events and materials, we're absolutely going to incorporate RiverRenew content into those. We've seen a dramatic increase in tour activity and interest over the last few years, and I don't anticipate that will slow down too much with the creation of our superstructure. We've still hosted quite a few tours this year, even with kind of limited access to our construction site and no longer have a tunnel. So we're still seeing a lot of activity around tours. Our sixth floor, we still get quite a few requests for community presentations, and AlexRenew is not known to turn down community presentation requests. So I think that's I think that's an area that we'll continue to see activity, interest, and be able to share the word of RiverRenew and also what we're doing at AlexRenew as a whole. Okay, so hopping over to legacy and benefits, I'll touch on these real quick. We have more detailed slides that follow for each one of these bullets. But we talked about the torpedo factory video idea in the past, so I'll highlight that. We also are looking at additional digital signage in DEC and also sort of repurposing that torpedo factory video in other places. Standard informational signage throughout the city. Couple creative ideas I'll highlight here in a second. And then we also will have a CSO reporting page available on our website. And I'll jump through the different components of that without going too in depth here. So first up, and this is not the actual video, this is just to kind of hype up the concept, but we are working and have been working actually for a few months on a concept video where we've gathered like every clip that we can find on RiverRenew from really the start of the program to now. And we'll continue to kind of gather those as we enter the final phase of the project here. But we want to piece together a video that really tells the story of RiverRenew from start to finish. Something that is a reasonable length, something like 5 to 10 minutes that we can leave in a public place like the torpedo factory. And somebody can walk up at any point during the video, engage with it, or they can sit there and watch the whole thing in a few minutes. So that's our goal. As we walk through these, I've also tried to highlight the number of visitors where I could find them for some of the sites. So for instance, there's 40,000 visitors at the torpedo factory each month, just to kind of give an idea of the kind of traffic that we'd see for something like this. As far as informational signage, I wanted to provide a few concepts here. Most of these are not fully fleshed out, with a couple exceptions. But the idea of the informational signage is this physical signage in different locations is to give community members a way to easily interact or see where they're standing, what a piece of our infrastructure is, the purpose it serves, things like that. So we've put up a few concepts here for the promenade, Pendleton Promenade and Jones Point Park. These would be signs. We'd work with we've already reached out to the city to get the official design template, and then we'll work with our marketing group to come up with essentially signs that show what's under your feet where you're standing. And this concept of the sign is to provide background on the Riverview project, in case they don't have that information, where we are standing, where the project map is, and then also what's directly in front of them. We also have some simpler signs that are already created for Pendleton Promenade that essentially request that community members share their special moments with us. Like if somebody proposes or there's some special family moment, they can tag AlexRenew and we can engage with them on social media. And then we also have signage that shows, we'll direct them to a website where they can scan their phone to a QR code and see essentially a digital version of this graphic that shows what's under their feet. And then the final idea, this is kind of a fun wild card idea we're working with our marketing group on, but we want to come up with some sort of decal that we can send out to businesses in Old Town that they can essentially like either stick in their bathroom or some other place, and customers can scan a QR code and see the work that we're doing at AlexRenew and also how the Riverview project functions. So the concept is, in the bathroom, you have a captive audience. They'll be able to scan the QR code, visit a website, and then see an interactive map potentially that shows where their flow is traveling to get to us, potentially how it goes through Riverview. Just kind of a fun idea. Concept at this point. But I think it's another way we could get a lot of engagement, honestly.
You might want to workshop that one.
We're still in the.
I like it. I like it.
I think it would get a lot of engagement.
I do too.
Okay, so jumping over to the community CSO reporting page. So not only does this help us demonstrate permit compliance, but we want to take it one notch further and make sure that on this page, we're also highlighting the benefit that we're providing to the community, not just highlighting when there's overflow.
Before you move up
Yeah,
the
sure.
slide, I would guess that sometime in June, July, or August, there will be an event, a rain event, that we can say, in the past, this would have gone into the river,
Absolutely.
and we caught it.
Yep.
It's that first one.
Yep. Absolutely.
So
That's what we were talking about. Hopefully it doesn't happen on July 1st.
yeah, well, yeah, I would be ready, have all the material ready for that event.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and actually to your point, I'll say this now, you all know we're working on a website redesign currently.
Yep.
So we have, the timing of it is a bit awkward in the delivery of the website because it will be later in summer. So we have kind of an awkward handshake. We'll have two CSO reporting pages, essentially one on the old AlexRenew site, and then we'll have probably a fancier version on the new website, but just for general awareness. So in a high level view, you can see we'll have essentially a GIS page. This is actually a real screenshot of the GIS page. The outfall locations will be highlighted in green on our day, and then if there is an overflow event, you would see a red stop sign icon. That also helps us meet ADA requirements.
And we have volumetric data on the volume of storm combined sewage water that would have gone in the river, right?
Good
Okay. We're headed-
segue to the next slide. Yeah.
Thank you.
So she did. So this is sort of, if I go back one slide, this is sort of the mandatory component. This is what helps us.
So the only way you're gonna see this information is on the website only?
Right.
Yes, yeah.
So we don't have warning lights. We don't have a requirement for a light to go red, yellow, green if it rains. The way that we're permitted through DEQ is to have this reporting map that's live on the website. You can sign up for real-time alerts if you wanted to. It'll email you like a listserv when there is an overflow event. So if you want to sign up, there'll be a sign-up page here. So this is part of our operating and reporting plan with DEQ. Was in the original permit to have some sort of public-facing website. This is the very probably top of the page, and Mr. Robertson's going to page down to the additional items that we'd like to add to this page as well. But that's all that's needed from a permit compliance standpoint.
Okay.
Remember, it goes back to the EPA policy. We have presumption approach, not demonstration approach.
So this would be the area I was talking about where we would like to highlight the benefits of the program, not just look at it when we have combined sewer overflows. We had quite a bit of discussion around this. How can we highlight not only what we're capturing on a monthly basis, but also on an annual basis? And then we've reached out to some of like BT Water, for instance, and spoke with their team at some of the benefits that they've seen. And one of the ones that stood out to them was the amount of trash that's been collected in the system. So that's another thing that we want to highlight in our dashboard. I noted this earlier, but we're seeing all kinds of wildlife activity on Hush Run, for instance, that we haven't seen before. So I thought that was another fun addition to the corner that just highlights the real-time benefits we're seeing right now. We can start showing those. Those are actual photos and videos from Hush Run. Sure.
I know this is a mock-up, but what is the 120 and the 120?
was just
It's
wondering
confusing.
that.
So that's
Yeah.
actual host run data from 2025. So the light blue is what was captured. The dark blue is what overflowed. So it should be
Okay,
1 million gallons overflowed on the bottom part. There's a typo. So the overflow volume
Oh, yeah,
would be
sorry.
the dark blue. Captured volume is the light blue. That was an 88% reduction of host run over the calendar year of 2025.
okay. Thank you.
That's actual data. We're thinking of using that same approach on the website. Obviously, so we'll have it annotated a bit better, but the idea would be show the total volume of overflow, how much went to AlexRenew and how much went out. It'll mostly look like January through April with very little dark blue throughout the year. It's because we didn't have the pumps in service and we had a 6-inch orifice at the upper end of host run. It's shocking we got 90% control before the job was done, honestly. Incredible.
And the rest of the numbers are just made up.
That makes sense.
Oh, okay,
That's good.
Notional. They're notional.
got it. Okay.
The bottom.
Concept.
I was trying to make it make sense and I was like,
The
I'm just
numbers
really
don't.
tired.
The
Okay.
graph is real. The numbers that go with the graph are not real on the right.
How about the rain? How many inches of rain? And,
We just
you
put a
know,
HAIDA graph on the top of that captured combined sewage to show how much it rained.
Yeah.
Per month.
No, every time you can do it per month.
Excellent.
That,
Yes.
we thought more than this was too much, but we wanted to show the benefit.
Yeah, I mean, we can always, it's a website, so you can always
It's
change it. If you highlight too many things too, you run the risk. It's all lost. Okay. The final phase I touched on was brand strengthening. So I'll touch on these real quick. I'm going to go through a little bit more detail in the following slides, but the areas that we've seen, a lot of strengthening our brand over the last few years is our digital presence, our community engagement, our key partnerships, our media partnerships, and then some of the lessons that we've learned from just managing this project and communicating with the community. I wanted to take a second and share a few of the metrics that we've seen both recently and then sort of long-term over the last few years. Part of the reason I want to share these is just because they're really easy to measure. So it's very trackable, very measurable over time. In the last 5 years, we've gained 2.5 times the followers that we had in 2021. So that's a sustained increase that we've managed to keep. We almost tripled our audience. And then we have 3 times the annual impressions that we did in 2021, which is a pretty significant increase. If you look at this chart to your right and you see the little arrows that point to sort of key moments along the timeline, you can see where Hazel arrives and began tunneling, the Hazel Day celebration, and Hoof's Run Day. And I pointed those out on the chart because those were sort of the most easily, the community was the most interested in them, essentially, those moments in time. So and one of the things I want to highlight here is between Hazel Day celebration and Hoof's Run Day, we had a bit of a lull in, I'll say, activity of interest on the River Renew project. And we were still able to sustain a really high level of engagement on our social media channels, which I think has shown the growth for sort of our communications approach and how we're able to continue to engage with our community and our customers. So I think that's a positive thing moving forward when River Renew eventually does end. And then looking kind of short term here at 2026 numbers, we've had about 200,000 post impressions on videos and posts really in the last 3 months. A couple of those had Ryan, as we talked about earlier, but we featured other staff members in different parts of the superstructure. We've had 50,000 video views, 16,000 likes, shares, and clicks, and more like 10 media pickups since we wrote this. So I think in 2022, we probably had 8 media pickups in total. So just in a 2-3 month period, we're seeing the same activity that we saw 5 years ago. So I think the point of this slide is really how do we continue to engage with our customers, grow our community. And I think we've kind of shown over time that we're able to do that, and we'll continue to do that post River. And then a few other things that I wanted to highlight here. Not only are we seeing growth in social media, but also the number of STEM events that we're invited to, the open house that we had, the number of plant tours, I talked about this earlier, that we're seeing year over year has only grown. Our sixth floor interest and lobby participation are also still growing. So we're seeing a lot of community interest, and that's something that we can continue to build on as AlexRenew without the River Renew program necessarily. And then through the River Renew program, we've created a lot of really powerful partnerships with the city council, elected officials, AFCA, the Chamber ALX, Alexandria Soccer Association, ACPS, SAG, community members, you name it. We've created some really great partnerships, and those aren't going anywhere. We maintain those still to this, every month, every week. We've also created a lot of media contacts through just the River Renew interest. So we have pretty close relationships with quite a few reporters that we're able to, they run a lot more of our stories for even AlexRenew than they probably did a few years ago. And I think a lot of that is because we're so upfront at answering questions and responding to any inquiries they have. And then finally, just taking the lessons learned, how we're approaching projects, how we're engaging with the community, going above and beyond to go to all the community meetings, to meet with customers and talk with them. These are things that we're going to carry way beyond the River Renew project. And I think all of these things will help make us successful at building our brand in the future.
Thank you. Okay, moving right along to a review of a resolution authorizing extension of our line of credit. Here's the tab 5.
I thought I had a too important thing. Good evening, Mr. Chairman, Vice Chairman, members of the board. In front of you is a memo and resolution requesting for a renewal and extension of AlexRenew's line of credit. The line of credit is a revolving loan that allows us to borrow, repay, and borrow again up to the set credit limit. One of the pluses of the line of credit is we only pay interest on the amount we use as opposed to the entire credit limit. To date, the line of credit has provided funding certainty to help bring the AlexRenew program to a completion during a period where AlexRenew experienced several government shutdowns and a federal funding freeze. The memo you have in front of you is staff is asking for a 30 million 2-year extension from July 1, 2026 through June 30th, 2028. This new line of credit of 30 million is down 90 million from the current line of credit we have of 120 million. The 30 million also carries an annual commitment fee of 69,000, which is actually waived if more than 50% of the balance is used. So if we use more than 15 million of it, they waive 9,000. The line of credit will continue to provide funding certainty to complete the AlexRenew project, as well as procure the, as well as jumpstart the phase forward project as we draw down on the $50 million green bond and procure the next tranche of loan for the phase forward project. Any balance on the line of credit will be repaid with debt proceeds that we either get, because the line of credit is more like a loan in transit, and in any existing loan we have, such as the green bond or the next tranche of loans we're going out to get to use for the phase forward project. Yes, sir.
How's the rate set for the line of credit?
We actually, yes, I don't know it offhand.
The previous one was what, 2.7, something like that?
Something else, something else. I don't know that offhand, but yes, we could get.
Based on treasuries or LIBOR or something?
Correct.
Okay. Probably not gonna be 2.5% anymore.
The average 2.7, but it fluctuates.
Yes.
Any discussion on this? Finance Committee? Good. The motion to approve?
Well, I have a question. You said this line of credit would help with AlexRenew.
Yes, so.
Are we still, the Fed still will be owing us
No.
money? We haven't drawn that down or what?
Initially, it was for AlexRenew, and I think, so we increased, remember we had it at like 30, we increased it to 60, and then the government shut down twice, we're like, we're gonna increase it to 120, so last increase was 120. I think we're saying now we're gonna decrease it back down to AlexRenew value. I think it was at 20 before, we're suggesting you go to 30, and that's just to provide some protection on the phase 4
understand
program
that
spending.
Is any of this, would we draw down any line of credit for AlexRenew, or that's what I thought, we're beyond that?
Phase 4.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
Mr. Jenks, any other questions?
Yeah.
Is there a motion to approve?
So
Second, all in favor?
moved.
Aye. Thank you, Mr. Akankube. Moving right along, new item. Change order to a contract for the Building L elevator.
Capable premature before. So tonight for review and approval for the board is the change order to contract 25-05 with Nichols Contracting. This is for the building L and G elevator replacement project. So this project is currently underway and was nearing completion. However, during the installation of the building L elevator, this was damaged unanticipated glycol leak. The value of the change order, about $80,545, does exceed the CEO's delegation of change authority. So therefore, a change order approval is required by the board of directors. Funding for this project was included in FY 26, and we are anticipating about half of that amount, about $480,000 to be expended in this year, with the remainder to be spent in the 2027 budget. Building L, if you recall, is is a multi-story solids processing and handling facility, and also houses our centralized odor control storage system. So staff would be regularly using that elevator to traverse the buildings for maintenance, repair, sampling activities, and have to go up to the 6th floor for the dewatering centrifuges to pull samples about every 3 hours. So, if you recall, when this project was approved back in December 2024, we were having a lot of issues with the elevator. It was down frequently since early 2023. And once construction started in August 2025, the elevator has been taken out of service since then. And so staff have been having to use the stairs to traverse the building to get to the locations where they need to do their maintenance and operation needs. So, once the glycol leak happened and caused damage to the elevator itself, we went in, repaired fully the glycol piping. All the couplings were removed and replaced with welded pipes. We then did a detailed assessment by the contractor and essentially determined that the newly installed elevator could not be salvaged, and we needed to do almost a full replacement of the elevator itself. We originally anticipated that this would go through insurance claims. However, that process has been delayed, and given the lead time and construction effort to reinstall this elevator, which is about 35 weeks or so, we didn't want to wait any longer and continue that burden on staff. So we are asking for a approval of a change order to that contract to be able to execute that work on that replacement elevator as quickly as it can. CEO's delegation of change order authority for this contract was 25%, which originally was an amount that was authorized of about $3.5 million. However, with this change order, we are increasing the elevator project to about $3.7 million, which represents about a 31% increase in contract value as a whole.
Mr. Pilot, can you walk through the glycol leak so everybody understands what happened?
Sure.
Slowly.
So on the elevators services all 8 floors of Building L. On the 4th floor of Building L, just outside the elevator doors, we had there's several different pipes that run through the corridor there. One of the piping was glycol, which is used as part of our heating system that overall is supported by the low pressure steam system. What happened was we're going to stand is some of the joints that were installed on that pipe to relocate it ahead of the elevator project did not seat appropriately, and a leak ended up happening from those pipes, spilled down into the corridor, and then made its way into the bay doors of the elevator, and then went down in the elevator shaft and damaged the hoist, the cables, sump equipment within the basement of the elevator, and also came in contact with some electrical and control panels and damaged all those. That was not a leak caused by the contractor itself. It was really an unanticipated and accidental leak that occurred.
So what coincided with that was a pressure spike in the system, and what we assume is that the fittings had failed and caused the leak. So we've since, as Mr. Piling mentioned, there's no longer fittings there. It's now welded pipe. So it cannot expand. 2 other pieces. We ran this through the contract. We have a builder's risk policy like we do in all jobs. A claim was put in for builder's risk. It's currently going through the claim process now. We also put in a claim through our property insurance with Versa. That includes both pollution for the glycol, because it is considered corrosive and a substance that would be covered under pollution liability, as well as a claim under our property insurance. And, we're waiting to hear back from builder's risk. We've been back and forth with Versa. We have a call with them later this week to talk about the claim on the insurance policy. If we do get money back from seems likely we would get money back from builder's risk. That's why we have builder's risk. We would then be reimbursed that money via the contractor through whatever language we put in the change order. It would be reimbursed then through the contractor. If they get the builder's risk money back, it comes back to us, offsets the costs that we have to execute this change order. I think there's a interest of time here. We just do not want to wait any longer for the builder's risk to work through their whatever they do with the underwriter. It's always underwriters. Whatever they're doing with the underwriters right now, we don't want to wait any longer. It's already been 4 months since we've ended up cleaning up and doing our investigation. We want to get the job going again. So hence the ask to the board for the increase.
Any questions from the board? Motion to approve.
So move.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, rounding the corner. Monthly report.
Carl. That's why. General Assembly.
Really only one update since last month. The governor vetoed the collective bargaining bills. There it is, 1263, table 3.1 in the monthly report. The other one, the paid sick leave, is going to be signed, but it's still awaiting signature, and everything else we went over last month. So happy to report that we have engaged Sarah Graham Taylor, who I believe mentioned last month we're going to be using for legislative services, former legislative director for City of Alexandria and still works for City of Alexandria. So we have very good story to tell, and thus far we've been really going as a pack with our state advocacy organization to do a lot of our lobbying. This will allow us to better tell our story, and particularly to the Northern Virginia delegation. So we're going to be having a kickoff meeting with Sarah beginning of June, and we'll be getting started this year on our legislative priorities well in advance of the General Assembly beginning. Anything else you want to? General Assembly still hasn't passed a budget, and they have to get that done before July 1st.
We were invited, staff were invited to an event with the governor and several members of the delegation. Ike, Lopez, Tran, to sign various environmental bills. One of those were House Bill 1443 for PFAS. So we were excited to be there in attendance to see the governor's ceremonial signature of those bills. And we were given the pen by Delegate Lopez that she used to sign HB 1443 was given to staff. So we have that as a memento for our work this General Assembly session.
The pen's made out of plastic or metal.
Metal. And there were only 12 of them at the event. 2 per bill, and there were 6 bills, and we got one of them. Very exciting.
It's good.
There's a photo of Miss Dinus and myself holding the pen in the garage, very excited.
Or you gotta frame it.
I'm not sure. We might get a shadow box for it with the bill.
Should, you should.
You should.
And put it in the loft. Yeah. It's a good idea.
It's cool. It has her name on it.
Yeah.
It's in a box. It's not just like a Bic pen. It's it's a ceremony.
Sharpie either.
Sharpie, Governor of Virginia. It's cool. So no, we were honored to be invited and honored to be a part of it. I think
That's a big deal.
you know, for staff, it was a good end to the General Assembly session for us. And to be recognized, I think our work to be recognized by Delegate Lopez, after working with him through the session was really, really nice to see as well.
Anything else on the monthly report?
You want to run through delinquencies quickly?
So overall, we saw a decrease in 44 accounts this month. We did see a slight increase in the month-over-month amount owed. And that's typically when you see a decrease in account, like the number of accounts and an increase in the amount owed.
Oh, go ahead.
that means a commercial customer's past due. It's usually 1 or 2 balances. So that's the case here. And then jumping to, I guess I can go through these real quick. So while we're here, it's not the most exciting lead report. We had kind of low participation this past month. So we've already seen an uptick a bit in May. We only assisted 5 customers in April for a total of about $3,200. Same trends. There's only 5 additional accounts here, so it hasn't shifted too much. And then the one thing I'll point out on the last slide is that we're still seeing sort of a decrease in the overall total balance owed, which I think is a good sign for our delinquencies overall. But we're not going to distribute as much per account probably moving forward. I think we'll probably have increase and decrease. Overall, you're starting to see a decreasing trend.
So we're achieving steady state or getting close to it.
Yeah, and the other thing I wanted to point out before we leave customer service is we have now 77% of our delinquent amount represented with payment plans, which is the highest percentage we've seen on the report. So it's a kind of a good thing and a bad thing, a double-edged sword. We have that debt accounted for essentially, but it's going to take longer to pay it down. And on the last page, really quick, we did hold our final of 3 virtual meetings prior to the public hearing. We got a few extra attendees to that meeting, and I think we totaled them at about representing about 35,000 units. So that's pretty good participation for those meetings. Better than I would have expected, honestly.
Could you give an update in the web portal for Elite really quick?
Sure, yeah. So I've been kind of pestering our Dollar Energy rep because if you'll recall, he said he provided an updated portal where we could limit the number of questions that we were asking customers, things like for social security numbers and information that we don't really want to ask for, basically. He said they're delayed. They expect to roll out the new platform in the next couple months where they'll at least eliminate things like social security number. But for us to fully customize it, he said it would be. So I didn't get a hard deadline, but I think we're looking at 3-4 months. And we'll be able to roll that out digitally. So that might help us kind of boost our digitally. I don't think we want to jump the gun and roll it out now.
It's too much information.
Yeah, I'm sure it's depressing.
We'd have to put in,
Rates of participation.
we have to put through, we have to black out so many sections say do not fill out.
Yeah.
Because just asking for too much information. I think we're afraid it would turn people off as opposed to have them engage and provide address, account number.
It's very long. So like almost any benefit you give from a big digital is from the length of time it would take to complete it. Versus if you call us, it takes like, 45 seconds.
Thank you. Thank you. Carl, anything else? The motion to adjourn?
Second.
All in favor?
Uh,
Thanks, everybody. Very good.
I need to. Thanks.
Thanks.
You get a chance tonight, you have to present that.
Hands down and. I'll send you the email and I'll let.
I know, with the bonuses.
I'm pretty sure the bonuses.
And if you can, I've missed them. Just send a soft copy of it.
How long do you think they'll